Sakurai just released his last daily Smash Bros. Screenshot on Twitter a few days ago. For like the last 2 or 3 years, he's been releasing every single day.
His blood contract finally finished.
Yeah.
Like, he can finally rest.
You must do this every day.
His soul is free.
His soul is free. He can see his family again.
The sigh of relief.
Welcome back, our beautiful Super Agile Nation. You already know what it is. It's your boy Bradston on the mic, ready to make it happen with the brothers themselves, with the boys. And I'm going to bring them in. I'm going to introduce them. Let's bring to the stage the boy Kyle. How are you doing, sir? Hello, Kyle.
Let me at him.
Let's go.
I'm doing good.
Let's go.
How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm doing good. A little bit of weather in my throat today for whatever reason. Who knows why?
This man's got a whole storm in the back of his mouth.
It's brewing.
So y'all probably might hear that in my tonality. But you've already heard the other brother ready to go for the day. We got a brother Steve. What's happening, brother Steve?
Man, I feel like your intro always makes it feel like I got to come into the room down a ramp with like a cape and a crown and like a belt around my waist.
Yes. Get ready. You're about to
take my shirt off.
That you always do.
Body slam somebody.
About to fight, son. Fight for your life, son.
Defending his championship belt.
He's the winner of the most L's of all time. So
the undefeated loser.
He's never won. So you know what? Today we're gonna jump right into the topic because I think we have a really good one. We're gonna go on many tangents. You know us. We know how he is. But I think we have a great one. And I think, let's just cut straight to it. Let's talk about games, but particular. We want to talk about Nintendo multiplayer games. Grames, my favorite.
Live typos, that's what they call that.
Yes, they call that. And what makes them so great. So what makes Nintendo games, particularly multiplayer games, so great? And I would probably feel confident to say that all of the guys on this podcast feel that Nintendo is holding it down, but I'd love to hear their opinions. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just, putting stuff out there that's going to get thrown down. But to start out with our discussion, let me ask y'all this. Do y'all agree with that statement? Do y'all think that Nintendo multiplayer games are really that great? And just in a general level.
I wouldn't know. I only play solitaire. Two-player solitaire.
With yourself?
Games.
With yourself?
Yeah. I have two screens because I'm, filthy rich. And so I put one on one screen and one on the other, and I just go back and forth.
This man's
There's one card on one screen.
This man's living in 2052. I see.
That's right. Should I answer seriously? Is that the expectation now?
I thought you were.
Oh,
yeah.
No. Absolutely.
You
not.
thought.
Heard it here first, folks.
Okay, so what was the question? What makes them great? I think what makes them great.
Or do you agree with that statement? And
do I agree with them?
So on and so forth.
Do I agree with them statements? Yeah, I think Nintendo has cut out a very nice little niche for themselves in the multiplayer market. Obviously there are other excellent multiplayer. Well, there are multiplayer franchises that are not like Nintendo games. But I feel like Nintendo's multiplayer games are multiplayer first, whereas something that I love, like Halo, is single player. Well, I don't know. I always thought of it as single player first with a fantastic, multiplayer setup. But maybe other people feel differently. But to me, I always felt like Halo was a campaign game that just had great multiplayer. But with the Nintendo, like a Mario Kart or something, like you're not supposed to play Mario Kart by yourself. It's made to like frustrate you with your friends. It's made to help you frustrate your friends. Like every Nintendo game. Maybe that's the secret. It's cooperative sometimes, but also there's always like a skosh of competition. And when there's flat out competition, it's a skosh of obnoxious insanity.
Sounds like Mario Kart to me.
It's funny because I think when I think of Nintendo multiplayer games, I like, first of all, when I think of multiplayer games, I think of two generations, like local multiplayer and then online. And then when I think about Nintendo as far as local multiplayer games, I'm like 100%. Games are great.
Right.
They're so good. When I think of online, I'm like, well, their implementation is not that great. But the thing is, I don't think that it makes the games less great. It's just that their online implementation, a lot of their games are not that great. But overall, and I want to say this, it's not just that Nintendo games on the Nintendo systems that are multiplayer are great. It's the Nintendo games on Nintendo systems, games made by Nintendo that seem to always just stand out, and even the most randomest, like, you just anything. If they say, "Oh, Mario Golf," who thought that was going to be one of the most fire games ever?
Did you buy the new one? Have you played it?
No, I don't think I've played. I don't know.
It looks wild, man. Running all over the green.
It's like an open world golf game or something.
No, it's not open world. But
Breath of the Wild.
Open green golf game.
Mario Golf of the Wild.
It really makes you feel like a golf club.
Yeah. I have to somewhat agree with the statement.
Only somewhat.
Only somewhat. Because, you think about... I think that Nintendo is kind of undisputed when it comes to couch co-op.
Okay.
Because, since their inception as a playing card manufacturing company, right? They've always been focused on, family gaming. And then they made their arcade machines. You play them by yourself because they didn't figure out multiplayer that much back then. But the way they'd handle scoring in, short rounds and games that were interesting to watch, you still have that aspect of, you're both playing at the same time, even if one of you is a spectator. And then, the Famicom. And then, I think they kind of embed multiplayer into their games in a way that's beyond just making a game for people to play in a group. They think about, what game would just be fun for us to just go do. And then they make that into a game. And it's on such a deep, richness when it's from Nintendo themselves, because they license multiplayer games that aren't very good, but the core ones, if it's got Mario in the title, you can almost guarantee it's gonna be multiplayer and it's gonna be fire.
Yeah, for the most part. Yeah, I think
there's definitely a few Mario games. I think about Odyssey where they try to shoehorn multiplayer in, and it feels bad, man.
Yeah.
Have you ever played Galaxy's multiplayer? Where
no, I didn't know Galaxy had multiplayer.
Essentially, Galaxy's multiplayer is when you're the other player, if you flick your controller, it makes Mario spin or something like that.
Or one person controls the pointer.
Yeah,
you can collect the star rights,
and you can collect the star rights and stuff like that. It's no, thank you.
The shoehorn in experiences. I will say, at least they show a lot of restraint, and the mechanics they do make work. But no, it's never fun whenever they do that.
Yeah. You know what I want to see? I want to see Mario Sunshine with shoehorned multiplayer.
Oh my lord.
You just play as a disembodied flow of water.
Man, I just want to play as one of the inhabitants, the people who live on what's that island?
The Piantas.
Yeah, the weird looking Pianta people. They have.
Well, there's several species that live there. So you have the big blob looking folks, the Piantas. Mm-hmm. But then there's also the little shell people. I think they're called Nokis.
Not them. I don't want to be one of them.
You don't want to be one of them. You want to be one of the big boys.
The big boys. They feel so... They're gloopy. You can jump off their head. They kind of got the weird walk.
Is that a language they're speaking?
They just kind of go...
They make a sound of sorts.
They sound like somebody making fun of the Danes.
But something you said, Kyle, is what I think makes Nintendo stand out. Is that from the very beginning of any gaming experience that Nintendo makes, there seems to be a lot of thought about not only the person playing the game, but the person who might be with the person playing the game in some way, right? Because a random game that I think it like I think we talked about on one episode how like Assassin's Creed had multiplayer and it was better than it probably should have been, right? It's kind of how I feel about Star Fox 64, where like Star Fox 64, which was based on Star Fox, which was on the Super Nintendo or whatever, like that was a single player game, right? And it was you're flying around and you're fighting enemies, and it was like a what do you call it, on rails kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
But like you could move around, and then they'd have those spaces where you could go all range mode or whatever and fly around in the environment. But I feel like for a game that was so solid from a single player standpoint, their multiplayer mode was it seemed so like simple, but it was also so well done. And I spent so many hours as a kid playing Star Fox 64 with my siblings, even though it was like clear that Star Fox 64 is a single player game focused, but it felt like they knew, hey, like we can embed some of the systems, like take the best things out of it, you know, add in these little mechanics. And I feel like Star Fox 64 became one of our standard multiplayer games right next to Mario Kart and like any other game when I was a kid, you know. So I don't know. I feel like the DNA of Nintendo games, they know how to really bring the best elements of their games into multiplayer, you know?
They're always looking for something, even if it maybe doesn't feel great, like in Galaxy or in Odyssey. Like, they're like, how can we include somebody's little brother or sister? Like, you know, a kid's not going to be mad at being the hat or at letting you be the hat, right?
Right. They're invincible.
Yeah. What is it? Luigi's Mansion 3. In that game, the multiplayer looks like basically, it's funny because you start the game and you don't have multiplayer until you unlock Guigi, which is pretty early in the game. But yeah, the second player just plays as Guigi. That's actually not bad. Like, it's definitely asymmetrical. It's definitely very knack, but it's fun to be a Guigi. You can walk through spikes. You can, you know, slide through pipes and stuff. If you die, you just come back a few minutes later.
It's a smart take.
You can be the test dummy.
It's a smart take on like the clone formula that a lot of multiplayer games used to pick up back in the day. Like if they had a really strong game and they knew that it worked with the character they made, and just another way to shoehorn in multiplayer would just be like clone them with another color palette. Knack. A lot of like beat 'em up games used to do that. Yeah, Knack did it.
Knack.
I was gonna bring up Knack later, but I was like, let's not invoke his name too early.
Is Knack a Nintendo game? Is he in
absolutely
Smash
first party Nintendo?
But
I think Knack's pieces are an item you can throw around.
Oh man, yeah, Knack might actually make a pretty decent Smash Bros. Character. I mean, I'm confident in their ability to make pretty much any character into a Smash Bros. Character since Game & Watch.
Sorry,
cool.
You were saying, I interrupted you about Knack.
I forgot where I was going, but effectively, the Guigi I think is a really smart take on the clone aspect, I guess, that some developers take when it comes to multiplayer, because he is effectively a clone of Luigi, with, you know, but he's got the handful of abilities that make him feel unique, and you know,
yeah,
and it's helpful to have two people. So
I wonder. Well, when you play multiplayer, Luigi's Mansion, it's the exact same game. The only difference is somebody's controlling Luigi. If you're playing by yourself, there's a button to switch control between Luigi and Luigi, because the campaign is made to be, the puzzles are made to be solved with a second GUI player, whether that's you or a friend. So I wonder if, so it's a little easier with two people. Well, I don't know. I guess it depends. Like, I don't have to communicate with anybody when I'm playing by myself. I can just execute. But if I'm playing with Keisha, I have to be like, oh, you know, here's my thinking. Maybe we come to a conclusion together. I wonder what the development process for that was. Like, did they start, like, did they start looking for features that would make good multiplayer? Or did they love Guigi and then just have a light bulb moment and be like, aha, our second player?
I have a feeling similar to how I feel about like Overcooked, and how Overcooked has a single player mode, but it shines the most when you're playing with somebody else. right?
Oh,
like
definitely.
I feel like Nintendo seems like the type that would build the game with two people in mind from the very beginning, and then just try to make sure that as they build those mechanics, that it would still work without another person. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like almost like it's almost like I feel like they probably did it in tandem. You know, like, yeah, the goal, like, what would it feel like to play this game with somebody the whole way through, and what would it feel like not to? And I personally haven't played Luigi's Mansion 3, so I can't speak for that experience, but I imagine that the experience in the single player doesn't feel like you're being cheated. You know what I'm saying? It just feels
No, it doesn't.
different, right? Like, or maybe a little bit slower or something like that. But is that fair?
Yeah. It's so when you're playing Odyssey and you try to play 2-player, you're like, ugh. Though when you're playing 1-player, it's like really obvious this was made for this.
Mm-hmm.
With Luigi's Mansion, I honestly felt the same way. I played it by myself, and I'm like, this is incredible. And then I saw someone else playing, or I played some of the multiplayer with friends. There, other than the campaign mode, there is also like a dedicated multiplayer mode,
Mini games.
Oh, okay.
mini games, and like there's a mode where you have to clear out floors with multiple pairs of Luigi Gooigi groups. We
Really
played
fun.
that. Yeah, it was really great. It's awesome. And so for that, Luigi and Gooigi is like, it feels perfect. It feels built in. There's no puzzles. You're just catching ghosts.
Mm-hmm.
So for the most part, there's no difference. The real difference is just that Gooigi has less health, but he comes back eventually. And only Gooigi can go into certain rooms with like a duct that he squirms through. But like other than that, you're just running around catching ghosts together. So it doesn't matter.
It'd be
so
awesome
I don't know.
too.
It's hard to say. It's hard to say which one came first.
Yeah, I think it'd be awesome to be able to peer behind that curtain, though, at Nintendo to see their development process. Because I have heard it said before that they, at least some of them they try to shy away from sequels for the sake of sequels. And so whenever they do make, especially like Mario sequels, like the new mechanic that they're introducing is what kind of...
Yeah.
It's what makes it to where they can rationalize, okay, we're going to make this new game. So part of me thinks that they were just trying to give Luigi something in his kit for Luigi's Mansion 3. And it just became over time, like, oh no, this should just be a separate character versus Luigi turning into slime all of a sudden or something.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
Yeah. And if you think about it, the only game that I can think, and there's probably other ones, but off the top of my head, the only game that I can think of that had like what I would say is like the most direct sequel that almost felt like it wasn't really that much of a different game was Mario Galaxy 2, right? Like it almost felt like Mario Galaxy 2 was just like the DLC that they didn't have time to like add. So they went, you know what? Let's go ahead and add more levels, add, more stuff and like fully flesh it out because we have more ideas. And they were like, we don't want to just throw them away, But they're very deliberate about, okay, if we're going to make a new game, there needs to be a new mechanic. And I feel like Gooigi was the mechanic. And so they thought
for the most part,
probably thought very carefully about it. And they were like, oh, this is going to be a multiplayer game. This makes sense. Okay, how do we make it feel good in both,
It's funny that we ended up talking about this. We started, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that the spirit of the conversation was supposed to be on like Nintendo multiplayer, like the games that are obviously multiplayer first, like Mario Kart or, racing games and stuff, or other racing games or fighting games or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But we've moved over to like games that probably are single player first and just happen to have multiplayer aspects. And I wonder if that's because of something I've been thinking about. One of the reasons that Nintendo multiplayer games are so good is for the same reason that just in general Nintendo games are so good, which is like all the way that they think about developing a game and designing and mechanics and gameplay loops, the way that they do so much attention to detail, like all of their games are delightful.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore the multiplayer games are also delightful.
Yeah, they make a game that's just fun to play by yourself. And so it almost kind of lends itself automatically, if you will, auto-magically to if you do it with other people, because you're already having a good time, if they can't grief you too bad, then you should still be okay.
Yeah.
But their character controllers and like the way they make you feel whenever you're playing as one of their characters, I think is one of the biggest things.
Yeah. It's complete opposite of Fallen Order. Like, they clearly spent a lot of time like making sure that the game feels good, no matter what the game is, if it's Splatoon to Star Fox to Zelda. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can feel that the essence of the game was built around this one mechanic or a few mechanics and the controlling of that mechanic, and then everything else is just amplifies that, right? And I think, yeah, like you said, if you spend a lot of time really making sure that your games are exactly what they need to be for your audience, it never feel like, I mean, Mario Galaxy seems to be one of the exceptions where it feels like the multiplayer is kind of, but it's still kind of like a thoughtful approach, versus like something, I don't know, like even Knack. Let's use Knack, for example. Like, Knack clearly felt like they made the whole game to be single player. And then later somebody said, we should make it multiplayer.
I want to play too.
And they were like, perfect. Just add another Knack and make him respawn when he dies. Like, that was it. There was nothing deeper than that. And then there's a
should this other Knack influence the camera? Nah.
Like,
oh my God.
And then Nintendo having an opportunity, which I think they could have easily done, was made some game like Breath of the Wild multiplayer, and it wouldn't have been a bad decision. This is like an open world game. There's not a linear storyline. They already have a strong mechanic. All you have to do is say, oh, he has the power to make, Shadow Link using his little tablet.
He has a shadow jutsu.
You know what I'm saying? And or just completely not explain it, because you could do that too. And I think it would have still been a great game. Of course, they would have had to balance it out. It would have been pretty difficult to make because, how does an enemy deal with two characters on the screen? Who does it prioritize?
Right.
AI and stuff. But I think they could have done it. It would have probably felt terrible and weird, or the game would have come out 3 years later, But they made the decision like, nope, we don't care. It might be good.
Instead, they made Hyrule Warriors,
which is a great game that me and my wife would have 100%ed to 100% to a certain degree if it wasn't for the Korok seeds.
That's fair. Yeah. Can you imagine though? I feel like they really pushed the engine and the Switch as far as they could to make the game look and feel as good as it did. I don't think they could support 2 players.
It'd be rough.
They would, it would be really, it'd be Breath of the Rough,
Rough of the Wild. Yes. But then there's Knack 2. So it's definitely possible.
Well,
everything is possible.
Knack 2 actually fixed a lot of the issues we didn't like about Knack. It felt much better to play.
Yes.
2-player. 2-player, it did.
But Knack 1 existed, right? So.
Sure.
And how did the existence of Knack 1 facilitate a Knack 2?
They already had
if it was so bad.
They already had the budget for it. It was already baked in. And it probably actually sold decently because it was one of the only games.
Was it bundled?
Yeah. It wasn't bundled, but
I think
it was
like a launch title.
It was a launch title, and it was one of the first PlayStation 4 only games. So, and it's kid friendly and all that stuff, so it's perfect.
So they thought people loved it.
They knew it made money. They were like,
care about.
Let's try it again. I don't know if Knack 2 made money though. Fool me once.
That's right. Knack was like a tech demo, wasn't it?
More or less of what it's capable of, all the particles and little pieces.
It looks. I mean, it didn't look great, but the particle effects were very impressive.
Super cool, and it felt the physics of all of them felt kind of cool. And but let's not make this Knack talk. But
you sound like believers to me.
We should do a deep dive on Knack.
Knack.
That's a possibility.
That would involve me buying it, which I refuse.
No, we've already played through the game. Just one of us needs to play it, and then the rest of them.
One of us being Kyle.
Yeah.
I feel like I know enough about Knack.
You haven't played it, though. You haven't played it with another human.
Yeah, you can't deep dive just from our... You know what we could do? The deep dive could actually just be me and your deep dive, mine and yours deep dive. And we just explain to Kyle, and he can... That's an interesting thought. Instead of all three of us complaining, just two of us complaining.
The thing is,
so you have to relive it in intricate detail, because I won't know anything.
The thing is, I purged a lot of the experience from my mind.
That's what I'm thinking.
Impossible. It's in there.
So, I mean, of course, trauma, you can't remove trauma easily.
Exactly.
So it's like, I feel like we need to watch Kyle play it, and it'll bring back those memories.
Oh, yeah.
Kyle and Julie, Kyle and his wife need to play, and it's just like,
bro,
oh man,
don't strain my marriage this way.
But the thing is, it went straight.
Do you think she would go for it? Would she go for it?
Probably for a little bit, as much as she could stand. She's usually down.
See, the thing is, player 2 in Knack is literally you're invincible and can do whatever you want. So it's a great experience when you're player 2.
Oh, well, she might be down for that then.
I would basically just become the decoy. I would run out into a boss fight and just aggro the boss, and Brad would be my health pool pretty much.
Yeah, it was a difficult. I would have to really think through my approach so I don't die, and he could just go ham, beat up everybody.
Yeah,
man, the real.
But if I died, it was a problem.
Wait. Oh, if you died after he died?
No. Well, if he died, it doesn't matter. But if I die, and it's just him by himself, then suddenly he's exposed.
Yeah, and then I die, and then we have to restart. So it became a problem. Yeah. And then Nat it was like 3 hits, and he died. Yeah. But on the player 2, it was like 5 to 6 for some reason. I can't tell you how that balanced. So it goes back to this thing where it's like Nintendo is so intentional behind it. Mm-hmm. And once again, like you were saying, Steve, like we're not even talking about their multiplayer only games. We're talking about games that have multiplayer in them as a part of a consequence of the mechanic fitting it and Nintendo feeling it. But like then we get into the games that are Nintendo multiplayer games. Like hands down, most people would say one of the best Nintendo multiplayer games is Mario Kart, right? Like, I sometimes think to myself, I imagine the boardroom meeting where somebody pitched this idea. They were like, look, let's take all of our little random Nintendo characters and put them on carts, and then they'll drive around. And they'll shoot each other with shells, and they'll drive around in these maps. And, also, this is on the Super Nintendo, and they didn't have this wasn't a 3D system yet. Oof. So they were like, we actually need to create, a system. Well, it kind of existed at the time, and they were kind of building it. I forget what it was called. I can't remember the name of the system. But it's like, we need to use this cutting-edge technology on the Super Nintendo to make it happen. And they were like, yeah, let's do it. It'll be a strong game,
Didn't correct me if I'm wrong, didn't the first Star Fox game use some fancy new chip for its 3D environment graphics?
I think so.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Do we remember which one came out first?
I'm not sure if it was like a new Super Nintendo. I think it was just a new way that they used the existing chip.
No. I think they had a chip in the cartridge.
Oh, you're saying as kind of like an expansion.
Yeah. It was built into the game to be able to render these new graphics.
That sounds familiar, because that's how they would do the 3D scrolling effects and stuff. They did have to make new
I wonder if they did the same
in
Mario Kart.
I think that Star Fox came out before Mario Kart, from what I recall. Because Star Fox wasn't the first game, I don't think, but it kind of. There's a particular mechanic. There's a particular technology that
there were a bunch of games.
I can't remember
on the Super Nintendo that used it, because there was a Disney game, one of the Mickey Mouse ones, that used it to great effect. One of the levels where Mickey's running down a hallway or something, and somebody does a breakdown where it's 3 separate layers, and rather than it just being animated, it's actually using math. It's curving. So it's throughout the Super Nintendo. At least in a handful of...
That's really cool. I actually don't think that the boardroom meeting would have been that weird. And this is why. Because I think about those old games, and at the time, the cutting edge technology was like 3D spaces.
Mm-hmm.
And what better way to show them off than like than movement, So like racing, flying, stuff like that. I feel like it made sense. I think it was just, F-Zero was around that time too, right?
Oh yeah, F-Zero.
So to me, I'm like, yeah, it makes sense. Let's make an F-Zero game that isn't as ridiculous, and we'll have some cartoon characters in it and throw shells at each other.
Imagine.
I mean, once you have the world of Mario, no amount of ludicrousy is too much.
They had to take the step though. Like someone had to pitch. Bowser's gonna throw a banana peel at Donkey Kong while they're both driving little carts.
You're right. I don't think banana peels were an established part of the Super Mario lore at that point, so that would have been a new step.
And you have to think about Nintendo as a company
in innovation.
Like they're always about like the cutting edge and doing wacky things, but they're also like very like they treat their like craft very sacredly. Like they're not gonna just let you take something and do anything with it, right? They're gonna drag you to prison first. So you have to really feel like this idea was something that, like, I almost feel like you're right, Steve, in that it was like, let's find a way to show this cool technology. What would be cool to do it,
Yeah. And then it just landed here. It doesn't feel like Mario Kart is a tech demo in any sense of the form. But yeah, for all intents and purposes, it really could have been thought of that way.
Yeah, it was Mode 7. That's what it's called. Mode 7 graphics. Where they could make it feel like it's 3D within a 2D space. How they do the texture mapping. Yeah. And I feel like, I mean, like, what was there any, I'm trying to think, was there any system, I mean, no, I think Nintendo was the only system at the time that had as many strong mascots, right? Because they had all of the Nintendo characters were like very strong, like Yoshi, Mario, Bowser, Luigi, Princess Peach, like those are all.
Sega had a few,
but all of them in basically the same world. You know what I mean?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Like Sega had different games that were kind of made separately, so you couldn't easily bring them into the same space. You know what I'm saying? But Nintendo had such a strong motif, and then they go, okay, cool. What if you got to play with all those characters? What would those characters do for fun? They would race carts, And then I feel like, I don't know, personally, I think Nintendo's multiplayer heyday was, of course, personally, the Nintendo 64. Beginning of their dominance. Like, Nintendo 64 is clearly a multiplayer game system, right?
4-player ports out of the gate. Like, it hadn't been done so intentionally before. And then everything ran buttery smooth. Like, and then Super Smash Bros. Just took the world by storm on the 64. Or was it just called Smash Bros back then? No, it was Super.
It was called Super Smash Bros.
Super Smash Brothers.
Yeah. And it was just like they just went for it, man. Because that was another game where they just put characters and they were like, hope you recognize them, and put them in there. And people were like, I don't know who this character is. And then they've still been using Smash Bros. As a vehicle to introduce people to new characters. It's pretty amazing that it worked out that way. But it's because the game was so strong.
I mean, go ahead.
I still remember the sound of Samus's charge beam from Smash 64.
Yeah, like somebody gargling Listerine.
Graphics. Sound design.
Sure. Yeah, that was my first experience with Samus. And I think, obviously, Melee, for a lot of people, Melee was the first experience with any Fire Emblem characters.
Mm-hmm.
And now they just keep coming.
And I mean, I think it's
And they don't
interesting
stop.
because if you think about that game, number one, I mean, it was pretty limited what they could do, right, with the system and how many characters they could have. But like when you look back at that game, it seems super tame, right? There's only 12 characters.
I think it's 12, yeah.
Or something. And most of the characters are pretty popular, pretty known, because it's like Link and Yoshi and Kirby, Mario, Luigi.
Put Jigglypuff in there.
Jigglypuff.
You forgot Pikachu, the most famous of them all.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, it's pretty popular. Star Fox. Pretty popular characters, right? Like, they didn't bring in the weird characters till later, but even
Samus was kind of a weird character.
Samus was
Captain
huge.
Falcon, too.
Metroid had so many games at that point. Super Metroid. Let's see. By 64 time, it had at least 3 or 4 games in the Metroid. It was very popular in the Nintendo verse.
Was it very popular? I always thought Metroid was kind of an underdog, especially in Japan.
Niche.
I think in the US, Metroid was pretty. I mean, there's a lot of people who talk about their favorite gaming moments or their favorite gaming Easter eggs. They're going to talk about Metroid, right? Like,
okay.
Revealing that Samus is a woman. And as far as Nintendo characters, Metroid was a strong one. Like I hadn't.
It's a strong IP.
Yeah. And once again,
speaking of Metroid Prime 2 has a multiplayer mode. It's kind of like it's an arena shooter, and it's hilarious. It's a bunch of Samuses shooting at each other.
Nice.
Yeah, that
took the Halo formula.
Yeah.
I think that one was a difficult sell though, because I think the mechanics for Metroid are a little bit more like you really got to get used to them.
Yeah, it doesn't feel right.
Mm-hmm.
It was fun for what it was, but looking back on it now, I'm like,
yeah, it was probably one of the more dicey. But like Super Smash Brothers really pushed, I don't know, the envelope. I mean, how they did everything, the music, the galleries. It just felt like they really were like, yo, we're going to put everything in this. And I mean, of course, we know that our boy put his whole heart and soul into making the Smash Brothers franchise. He
did. Till he had nothing left.
Yeah. Now he's just a wisp.
He's a husk.
He is nothing without.
Sakurai I think it was a few days ago, he just released his last daily Smash Bros. Screenshot on Twitter a few days ago.
Oh, that's bittersweet.
For like the last 2 or 3 years, he's been releasing every single day a screenshot from the game.
Man.
His blood contract finally finished.
Yeah.
Like
he can finally rest.
You must do this every day.
His soul is free.
His soul is free. He can see his family again.
The sigh of relief.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty cool. That exemplifies the attitude. I feel like that underlies Smash Bros.
For sure. Yeah, you can see
just
his
the
heart
love of
in
the
all
medium.
those games.
Yeah, I feel like okay. Well, let's do this. Let's just talk about some of our favorite multiplayer games, Nintendo multiplayer games, and
we should talk about our least favorite Nintendo multiplayer games. We already talked about our favorites.
Wrong.
I have tons of other games that we haven't talked about yet. That
I want to bring up a game. So it's not made by Nintendo, but it was on the Nintendo 64. It's actually a Rare game, I think.
Well,
but,
I would say Rare games pretty much at that point were like close, like to being
second cousins to Nintendo.
Yeah. They might have been, yeah.
GoldenEye 007.
Of course. Bad boy right there. That
game right there, man. Ooh. It would get you just as fired up as Mario Kart would, to be honest.
I'd say even more.
Maybe more so, because you are shooting each other. So it's a little bit more intense.
Or throwing hats at each other.
Oh, God. If you pick Odd Job, show yourself out.
You're a scrub. If you pick Odd Job or you're a Ness main, you're a scrub.
Ness is banned.
Ness only. No, I mean, I feel like GoldenEye was one of those games. First of all, like, yeah, I think Rare, like you said, is like first to second cousin. there was truly a partnership, because you got to think about there weren't many. There were shooters at that time, but at that time there wasn't joysticks, right? So most shooters kind of worked the same, but like this is one of those shooters that used the single joystick with the D-pad, and it did such a good job, you know. And it was a licensed title. Like, think about that. One of the hottest games ever made was a licensed title.
Pierce Brosnan was in that boy.
He was.
He was printed on the cartridge.
Crazy. Like,
you think he has that cartridge like framed on his wall? So
they don't even know the
like
game
one of the first prints.
Yes. His lawyer said, "Hey, you want to be in the game?" He's like, "How much are I getting paid?" Okay.
Don't
Nintendo comes
miss me with
house.
that noise.
We made you.
But no, I mean, number one, just going back to the whole idea of like, 007 had a strong single player. Like,
it did.
Very strong. It had a storyline. I mean, it was followed the movie, but it was different, and characters, Boris and Oddjob and Natalia and all these different people, you know. And then, I mean, I think they did what I think is the best implementation of like, what do you call it? Like cheats, or like, not cheats. What would you call that? Like modifiers?
Like the big head mode?
Like,
stuff?
yeah, like big head mode, golden gun, slaps only.
I mean, there were codes you put in, so there were still cheat codes.
Yeah, it was great. Did y'all play it? I guess when it was most popular.
I barely remember playing GoldenEye. I didn't own the system, so I might have played it a handful of times at my friend's house. I have a very half vivid memory of being at a friend's sleepover in my neighborhood for his birthday, and all the guys are playing GoldenEye, and I was trying to go to sleep because it was like, 9:30 was past my bedtime. So I went to sleep outside on like the landing upstairs, and at some point they came out and they tried to push me down the stairs.
Ooh.
And I held on for dear life.
They tried to murder you.
Steve was the kid at the birthday party who was trying to go to sleep on time.
Because only 4 people.
That's why they wanted to push you down the steps.
It's 9 o'clock, guys.
They were like, "I'm gonna go tell your mom that you're still awake. We should be asleep." Like, are you serious right now?
Nah, I wasn't trying to snitch. I wanted peace, man. I was bored. I can't play the game.
To get it.
So that was my GoldenEye experience. I played a lot of Nightfire, which I'm sure isn't as good, and it was on the PS2, so it's totally different ballpark. But Nightfire is a lot of fun, and I played a lot of Nightfire at my friend's house.
Yes. I will say this, and we'll definitely talk 007. Nightfire, I think, was one of the first games I ever played that had competent AI that was actually fun to play against. And like, you could actually play, like, in other games, if there's AI, you just like mollywop them, but it would actually feel like you're playing a game with other people. It was pretty good. I played it on the GameCube. I used to play the mess out of that.
Sounds better than Fortnite bots.
I would dare say that they were like better than Fortnite bots, and they felt competitive. Like, and you could mix a team to have like hard bots, easy bots, mid bots. So you'd have this kind of texture. So you could set out, and then on your team, you could have a whole bunch of easy bots. So you could it was fun. I love the lodge level where it's like there's one lodge up on top of the hill and one at the bottom. And like, that
was the only level we played.
That was so good. That was, man.
With the Sentinels.
Oh my goodness.
And the little, the RC vehicles, the tank and the little helicopter.
Just shooting out a rocket that you could control.
Yeah, there were 2 RC vehicles that you could control. And basically it was like getting a tank or a helicopter or whatever in Halo, except they were tiny. And they were incredibly dangerous to the other people. So yeah, you would just hear, and you're like, "Oh God, I gotta get inside, gotta run."
Yes, you'd hear like, "Oh my goodness, I gotta get somewhere. I don't want to find me." And then I think it also had 6 versus 6 multiplayer or something like that.
Did it?
Yeah,
with only 4 controllers.
Yeah, I think that you could do 2v2 or
with CPUs,
or 4 free for all, but you could have up to 6 or 8. I can't remember. I'm gonna look this up, but it was not.
I do remember something.
Nightfire is one of those secret like sleeper games that like I didn't really like the main story, the story game.
I don't
much.
remember.
It was,
It's not based on one of the movies or even a book. I don't think it's for the game.
Yeah.
Whereas GoldenEye was supposedly from one of the movies, or sorry, one of the books.
Maybe it's one of those cases where they were making the game first and they just slapped an IP on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, multiplayer allowed for up to the use of 12 bots.
12 bots?
Yeah.
That sounds right.
It was chaos.
Yeah.
That's why I loved it. It was just chaos.
That sounds chaotic. Yeah. I wasn't aware of that game.
The lodge level also had a running loop of
the little
the hanging trolleys, like when you're going up like a
ski lifts, like things.
Ski lifts.
So
you could just hide in the ski lift and like snipe people from a moving sniper.
One of the best design multiplayer levels.
Yeah.
Next to like Gulch and like Halo or whatever.
Yeah. PS2 era games were just built different, man.
Yeah. And it was on GameCube. It was a great addition on GameCube as well. They did.
I didn't know that. That would have been really fun to play.
Yeah, I didn't have a PlayStation, so I played on GameCube. It was great.
So that reminds me of something, right? What's the one? I feel like shooters are probably the most numerous multiplayer games by franchise and by just SKUs. Especially like maybe the top 100 or top 50 most popular games, like some form of shooter. But like, what is the one game, the one genre that Nintendo, like first party Nintendo, doesn't really have? I guess Splatoon is technically a shooter, but I consider it like the mechanics are more like it's a turf war game.
Yeah,
I'd say it's a shooter. I just think that it has a different
because the melee weapons are like secondary to the shooting ones, which that's the case in shooters too.
That's true, but all of the guns are basically short range. Even the sniper is like pretty short range compared to any other gun in any game. It's very much like it's focused on painting. Like the mechanic, it is a shooter. You have guns, you have projectiles, but like mechanically, it's extremely different from other shooters.
And you're saying first party Nintendo games, what missing?
Right.
What genres are they missing?
I'm saying they don't have shooters. I'm saying like every other franchise feels like all the popular franchises are either shooters or like sports simulators, which fine. But Nintendo does have sports simulators. It has strikers. It has golf. What else does it have? Are those the only two sport Nintendo?
They have tennis.
They have tennis.
They have tennis. Yeah.
They made a basketball.
No one else has tennis.
They made a basketball.
They did?
Yeah, Mario 3-on-3 on the DS. It was fire.
Oh, wow.
Of course, they have racing.
And the Olympics.
The Olympics.
Those have a bunch of different games on them.
I forgot about the Olympic games.
Mario v Sonic.
Yeah.
And then you have the weird, like, the sports, the Wii Resort games.
Yeah.
Boxing, bowling, all of that.
The Switch Sports isn't that bad. It's pretty good.
I think it's just important to note that, like, because of how weird and quirky they are very often on the road less traveled in terms of mechanics and presentation of a game.
I mean, I would definitely say that Splatoon is a shooter. I wouldn't categorize it as anything else.
I
mean, when I'm describing it, I call it a shooter, but
I mean, family friendliest shooter.
I mean, yeah, it's Smash Brothers is a fighting game, but once again, if you compare it to fighting games that existed and have existed forever,
Tekken, Street Fighter,
it's not a fighting game.
I agree with that too. Yeah,
but it's a fighting game. It's fundamentally fighting game.
They kind of redefine the genre.
I say it's a fighting game in the same way Splatoon is a shooter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is barely.
So I think that Nintendo, I mean, that came later in their life cycle, I guess you could say.
Sure.
But I think fundamentally, even if you think about it, like a shooter doesn't really make sense in their mainline games. And that's why I think they had to make a new IP to make, a shooter. Because
someone Someone made a mod of Mario 64 where it's a first-person shooter.
Oh, he has a gun.
Yeah, yeah. Mario just has a pistol.
That's awesome.
Cease and desist, baby.
They did. They got hit hard, but it was
gone.
hilarious.
That thing gone. It does not exist.
Erased.
PlayStation. I gotta go on a tangent here. PlayStation just sent me a notification on my phone. Pre-order The Last of Us Part 1. Do you know how old that game is, PlayStation?
Pre-order? Wait, are they what?
I think they're remaking it. It makes sense. I think they are releasing a new
is that the screenshots I've been seeing? Okay.
Yeah, it's not a HD, it's a remaster.
Yeah, I'm like, whatever. But I think it's just funny that with no context, it's like, yeah, I'm not going to pre-order this ultra old game.
You were sent to the past, Steve.
The year is 1990. That's a very strong pre-order.
Oh, so okay. So I'm looking right now to see all of the sports games that they've made. First of all, they're out of control. They're out of control. So I forgot they had a baseball game, Superstar Baseball. I think
I also forgot
that was on the. Was that on the Wii U or the? No, it was on the GameCube. That's right, because it came out not too.
It wouldn't make sense for it to be on the Wii.
That's a Mario baseball game?
Mario Superstar Baseball.
Yeah, I don't remember that one either.
I think it was around the time of Strikers.
Oh, that would make sense then.
Because Strikers was
why it would be forgotten.
Secretly way too good. Like the original Strikers, I was like, oh, it's gonna be trash.
They didn't know what they had.
It was so good. Of course, they have golf. They have so many golf games. Olympics, the Olympic Games. Oh, they had volleyball. Super Mario Spikers? What?
That's real?
Oh no, this is just it was planned to be released, but it was never actually released. So tennis, basketball, baseball, racing, the Olympics, golf. I think that's the only ones they've done. But I think
Donkey Kong is in Punch Out. Does that count?
I mean, I guess that's boxing. They do have a boxing game, but I guess that's not Mario, but yeah, adjacent.
So would you say that like sports is the correct genre here? Because in my mind, tennis is really different. Like a Nintendo tennis game is really different from like a Madden football game.
They're not simulators.
But they're
I guess like
games.
traditional sports games, but I think they would still count because they follow the same rules of the sports. They don't have a football game. Yeah.
It's because everyone hates football but us.
Wait, do they have them? Not,
but America?
Do they not have a Mario football game? Really? American football. I guess not.
It'd be really complex.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I guess it's just not worth it because you have to have. There's too many. 13 man. So it would be a whole bunch of Koopas.
A lot of starting and stopping.
A bunch of Goombas.
Goombas and Koopas and.
Bruh.
And each of them would have to have different stats, and they would have to.
Plus, how do you dumb down the rules of football to make it into a fun?
Snap! Blitz.
The Blitz. That's how you do it.
That actually might be
what?
That might be actually kind of fire.
Blitz. NFL Blitz. I think it was called.
Yeah, it's just it used to be in arcade cabinets.
Yeah, it's basically all the players basically had the same stats for the most part, and it was just like it was basically Mario Strikers, but like football. And
have you played NBA Jam? It's a basketball game. Oh well, it's essentially the football equivalent of NBA Jam.
Yeah, it's just super stylized, and it's just very like. You can run and pass, but everything is like super fast. Everybody hits super hard. It's not as technical. Like Kyle was saying, it's not a simulator. And of course, there's tennis games, right? Very serious tennis games. I just think Nintendo does. They just make everything really easy and accessible and fun. So I think they're very much equivalent. I think they're just the simple version of all types.
I think you'd also have to like argue because we do have Forza like as far as a racing game, and then the movie Cars, they made racing games. but they don't feel anything like Forza. And so it's like, I think you'd make a similar argument that those aren't racing games because they're not like Forza than if you were to say that Mario Volleyball or Mario Tennis, just because it's not like the World Open Cup, whatever it is, whatever the actual tennis is called.
I wasn't comparing it to the other tennis game. I guess I was comparing it directly to Madden, but that's not fair. So, excuse me.
You're squeezed.
Thank you.
You are unexqueezed. Back into the shadow realm. No.
Get back.
No, I mean, I think there's just and you know, it's interesting if you think about it.
No.
Like, first person shooters weren't really a thing until, let's see, basically the 360, like multiplayer first person shooters, like the PlayStation 3 era, because everything else was okay. I mean, they existed, but I mean, I played multiplayer like shooter games, but it wasn't until I think, of course, the Call of Duties, but also
Halo.
Halo, of course. Halo was like the first person shooter, right? Like for a long time. There's really no other competition. And then on the 360, Medal of Honor came out.
Oh, I remember that one.
And they had a multiplayer mode that like I'd never played anything like it because it was like realistic and it was so good. Like it was fun enough that like me, my sister, my brother, and Rob, who y'all know, we played together and we were like having a great time, you know?
A lot of detail.
Like your shots really mattered. If you're a sniper, you could hide up in a nest. Like it was, and then all of a sudden that's when Call of Duty came around a few years later. So like, I think that Nintendo never felt the pressure to make one because they were just making other stuff. And then they were like,
because Call of Duty was like the arcadey Medal of Honor. And so it kind of fit in the same space that Nintendo probably would have hit if they were going to. At least at the time.
Yeah. So I feel like Splatoon is like, they were like, let's take a shot for it. Ha, no pun intended. Yeah. But
very funny. Very good. Good pun.
Punny.
So let's look at that then, since we've established that Nintendo actually does have a lot of the same genres as the multiplayer gaming scene at large. What's the difference between a Nintendo shooter and a Call of Duty shooter?
Mechanics. I think it's mechanics. I think just it goes back to what we were talking about with Nintendo's philosophy of they're so focused on making one mechanic feel great that they don't really care if it makes sense. You know what I'm saying? Like Super Mario Strikers is not a great soccer game. It's a great game, right? It's not a great football game. Yeah. It's a great game. And if you were to put somebody who played FIFA in that, they'd be like, what is going on? Why can you make shots like guaranteed if you have like a power, like if you level up enough or whatever?
The excessive tackling.
Mm-hmm. You know, so I think it's Nintendo's approach to not think about it as, oh, we need to stay in a particular box. But like that box we can shape as we see fit. Yeah. You know, they're creating.
I feel like they try to remove, I guess, the most boring bits of anything that they try to emulate. And so like if something feels slower to do, then they'll make the movement. Because I feel like a lot of shooters, you know, moving slowly and being super tactful is like ingrained in them. While in Splatoon, you know, you move really quickly. You can create your own paths using your weapon. It's just like things you don't really think about. I mean, like Fortnite, I guess, like the only closest one, in my opinion, as far as like giving you a lot of movement. And Battlefield did it, I think, you know, as far as movement. But it's like really, really changing the game to where like all the movement you're ever going to need is part of your kit rather than something you pick up or have to go find a vehicle or something like that. And that kind of goes into all their games.
You know what's something I think something that's probably overlooked is how just super stylish and fun all these Nintendo games are.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Splatoon is a fantastic example. They put a lot of effort into the music and the clothing,
the world,
and the character designs, everything about this, non-IP. Like, no one knows anything about the Splatoon lore, even if you've played the campaign, which you have not. You don't know what's going. Like, it feels so fleshed out, but it also doesn't, like, they're just not popular characters, but it feels like they just put so much effort into it that you don't really care. You're like, this is great. And I see a lot of, I mean, we just talked about this. What was the game that came out? Saints Row just came out.
Yeah.
And a while ago, we watched the trailer here on this podcast, and we were talking about how one of the things that we didn't like about the trailer was that it felt like they were going kind of for like a shallow implementation of like modern styles and like modern lingo and, the kind of like Gen Z aesthetic. And it just felt like really disingenuous to us. Whereas Splatoon,
LED helmet on.
Yeah, just like they really try. They put a lot of effort into it. But Nintendo manages to do it with like it's easy. Like they have the characters with the undercuts and the long hair and the short hair. They have all the neon colors and the like flashy clothes, like the teen clothes. It feels like they figured out hip. It's Nintendo. It's a, 200-year-old company.
Yeah.
And other publishers just can't come close to that.
I think it's because they, it feels like you mentioned like the style and stuff. It feels fresh when they do it.
Yeah.
Because it's like, if you think about Call of Duty, and maybe this make people mad, but it's like you're a nameless, faceless soldier when you're playing that game. But in Splatoon, you're playing as your character. When you're playing all these other Mario sports games, you're playing as familiar characters. And it's not, it's super stylized. Like you were saying, the graphics, the visuals, all kind of fit. And, the particle effects are crazy. They have special animations for anything you'll ever do. So it just as entertaining to watch as it is to play. And then on top of that, it feels really good to play. The movement's really tight. Yeah. The gameplay is simple enough to where you can pick it up really quick, but then, the simple yet challenging or easy to pick up, difficult to master formula is like always interwoven within these games. And so there's a lot to them.
I think that I was thinking about that earlier before the podcast. I was like, how hard is it to make a game like that? Like, me and Kyle have made games. I've made games by myself. I like to do it for fun, like smaller games when I'm like, I don't know, gamification, whatever you want to call it. But it's like, how do you make something that's truly easy to learn but difficult to master, right? Like, how many hours and iterations and blood, sweat, and tears do you need to put into something to really make a game feel like Smash Brothers? Perfect example. You know how many times, I had a group of people over and it was like, hey, let's play Smash. We'll play 8-player Smash or whatever it is, right? And there's some girls who have never really played games before. There's like me and Steve and Kyle, the tryhards. There's some people somewhere in the middle. And we're all having a blast. Like,
great time.
Steve's over here doing these crazy combos, grabbing people, kneeing them to oblivion. And then, some random person over here just like having a great time spamming a button, right? And
someone's playing Kirby and doing the Final Cutter up special over and
over.
And they're having a great
time. And I think that is probably the most difficult part. And something you were saying earlier, Kyle, and I want to say this before I forget, is that they take what's uninteresting about a particular mechanic, Mario Kart, driving, or let's take, for example, my perfect game that I think, one of my favorite games of all time, but in no world would I ever think I'd like it, Mario Golf.
Yeah.
When I was
great example.
12 or whenever it came out, I asked for this for my birthday.
That's a big deal.
All the games that I could get. And that's the only thing I got for my birthday. Mario Golf. Nothing else. I got Mario Golf. I could ask for Madden. I could ask for whatever fighting game existed at the time. I asked for a bike. I asked for, if it was like $60. I asked for Mario Golf.
A bike tire.
And that game was fire. Like,
Yeah.
I don't like, nothing against golf, but it's boring to me unless they're in the last strokes and it's like the last three people fighting for that position.
Yeah,
that intensity, right? But like Mario Golf was fun from the very beginning. Like you said about the stylized thing with Splatoon, same with Mario Golf. Man, when you hit that ball and you line it up right and you do it, and that the streak that's behind it, the noise it makes when it hits,
everything starts flashing.
The little fireball when you get a good shot.
You know what I'm saying? All those, and then when you play per character and they have different like ways that they do things, and then the sounds that they make and the camera and just everything is expedited, but it's still golf. You still have to putt. You still have to tee off. You still have to, you know what I'm saying? And then the level design is wacky. There's nothing Tiger Woods golf game came out at the same time. I remember playing it and being like, yo, this is golf. Like, you know, like I'm
actual golf.
This level of Tiger Woods is the most boring level in Mario Golf. In Mario Golf, we were playing in the clouds, you know, like, you know what I'm saying? Like rainbows and, you know, crazy stuff, you know?
And there were hazards.
Yeah, like genuine hazards. You will die.
Man,
hit the ball into the lava.
This makes me regret not buying the new Switch golf game.
It's not too late.
I'm thinking about buying it actually now. I'm like, I wonder if it's something me and Charlene would.
You hyped up now?
Yeah, because
it looks really good.
I loved Mario Golf, man.
I forgot about it.
So fun. And you know what's crazy? Mario Golf did one thing that I don't know if many of the other Mario games did. They had non-Mario characters in it that were also not from other franchises. They had a guy named like Harry.
Oh, the people that were in there.
Just normal people. And Harry had these big lips, and we used to call them doodoo lips. So,
oh, my Lord.
Oh, no.
Leave Harry alone.
But doodoo lips was good, though. It would be like, oh, you finna pull out doodoo lips. Okay, let's go.
Came to win.
But Mario Golf brought in characters that were not literally just the most random people, and I was excited to play with them. Like, I'd rather play with Doodle Lips over playing with, you know, Yoshi or something, you know? And then every character had their own benefits and negatives. Like, that's the thing. Like Nintendo understands that instead of making it where every character is, like you said, Call of Duty has no character. It's just like how good you are. Like, they also make each character unique and special. So if you want to play Bowser, who has no control, has no aiming, but boy, if he hits that thing right,
it's going flying.
You know? But versus like a Yoshi who's had mad curve, or what was it called? When it curves super hard.
Yeah,
you know,
it was curved.
Cut or whatever it's called. Like, he, you know, but she doesn't hit as hard. You know, or Mario, who's balanced, doesn't hit as hard, but has good, you know what I'm saying? Like, I just love that. Like,
all around.
I'm about to crush you with some Bowser, the worst player in the game, character in the game. You know, it was fun. It's fun, you know.
Man, that's a really good point, because I think like hero shooters try to tap into that where it's the variance and you have the choice. But a lot of games that do have the different characters, they struggle with balance. While I dare say that most of the Nintendo games, they don't seem to struggle with it. It's just like the strengths are just as powerful as any character's weaknesses, and the ones that are middle of the road that they tag as all around, they don't feel like they're too great at any part of anything. And so I remember, playing in Mario Tennis, which, speaking of introducing characters and giving them a platform, Waluigi was introduced in Mario Tennis because my man Wario needed a partner, and there he is. But everybody had the different attributes like technique and speed and power, all-arounders. But then when you're playing as a speedster who has lower power against Bowser, who has all the power, you don't feel like you're just immediately outmatched when he hits the ball or anything, you know, and vice versa. You know, it's never... The balancing is, I think, one of the things that really push these games over the edge and make every scenario feel unique and fresh. Give that infinite replayability that these Nintendo games just tend to have.
Yeah. And like, it's like Smash. You know, there's a lot of characters, but they're all balanced, right? You have a character super fast, but not as strong. You have characters really big and strong, but not as fast. You know, it's like, there's something special about having set character types, you know, sometimes. And not that every Mario game does that, but I think they do a really good job. Oh, by the way, his name wasn't There was a Harry in the game. His name was Charlie. Sorry,
Doodoo Lips Charlie.
Charlie was Doodoo Lips. Harry was just
Charlie and the chocolate.
He was
lips.
like a normal golfer. He had a little golf hat and a little like goatee, I think, or something like that.
That's who you pick.
I always played as the Koopa Troopa in golf, and that's who I play with now in Mario Kart.
Hey,
if Toad was in it, I would have played with Toad, but I don't think Toad existed.
Toad's probably in the new one.
Probably.
Man, but one place that I felt like was kind of a dangerous move that they did the balancing in was the new Mario Party. Have you guys played that one?
I played a little bit, yeah. You talking about the dice?
The dice, yeah, because some of them...
It's pretty bold, yeah.
Because yeah, everybody has their own 6-sided dice, and some of them just have like big, like Bowser's, for example. His goes up to 10.
Really?
Like yeah.
But there's demerits too. Like you could have... So, for example, with Bowser, it might be like a 10 on one side, but then 3 other sides are 1.
Interesting.
Yeah. So his was actually you lose 3 coins on 3 of the sides.
Ooh, yo.
And then it was 8, 8, 10 or something like that.
Yo, what?
Yeah, min-maxing.
Yeah, the risk versus reward is crazy in that game.
Wow. I feel like Mario... Okay, let's talk Mario Party for a second, because to me, I think Mario Party is the worst and best multiplayer game of all time. Like, and everybody knows it. Mario Party is where friendships end, right? But like being on top in Mario Party is one of the best feelings of all time.
Best and worst, because it's like, it's agony. The whole game is agony.
Mm-hmm. I still remember one time playing, I think it was playing with Rob and some friends and some other friends, and I was in like last place, and I was just getting worked. Like every time there was a luck thing, I would lose. Every time. And I think Rob had like 6 stars, like 500 coins. Like he was killing it.
That's how it is.
And I landed on one of those the roulette wheels that was like choose a character, then choose what you steal. Son. I just remember it was like it was in the last 3 to 5 turns.
Yep.
I had no stars. It was like my face. Rod's face. Rod's like, all right, whatever. Like, what's the worst you can do? And then like, what's it gonna? No, like, what are you gonna change? Stars. All right, I got like 5 stars.
No, it's serious.
5 stars. I took all 5 stars in the last turn. I thought it was over. I thought this game, the whole system, the TV. Oh man, it was such a great moment. Like Mario Party. Somebody evil made that game. But they, like.
Yeah. I mean, that's how people feel about Mario Kart. You know, they're like, oh no, I got hit by a blue shell. Now I'm in 7th place. I'm like, welcome to Mario Kart.
But I've played with you, Steve, and I'll say this every time on this podcast. I feel like if I hit you with 3 blue shells, I'm still going to lose. Like, I feel like
it wouldn't matter.
There's a skill level. Of course, you can be really good at some of the Mario Party games, but there's some level of chaos that's completely, it's a true RNG element.
Oh, yeah.
That Mario Party is... And nobody, I don't think anybody has ever tried to replicate the Mario Party formula in any...
There's a couple of like board games. There's a couple with the Mii's where they have like the mini games, but I don't think anybody's done it well enough to garner any attention. Yeah.
But once again, that's Nintendo. You just mentioned the Nintendo version of the game.
I thought that still counted as like I'm saying competitive.
A Mii's? Nintendo is a Mii, owns Mii's.
Well, I mean like a game because they put Garfield Kart on the Switch.
But first party, Wii is a Mii game is a first party Nintendo game.
Yeah, I understand that, but it's not a Mario game.
Well, I think we're splitting hairs here. Brad is saying no one outside of Nintendo is trying to eat Nintendo's lunch. If Nintendo self-cannibalizes, that's on them.
Fair enough.
Yeah. I can't think of a single game. The only one that could possibly come to mind is not at all similar, which is like the Jackbox games. Those are not, but those are totally
That's
different,
fair. That's
like
fair.
mechanically and presentation and everything. But it's a similar idea, like playing a game together on your TV.
The Jackbox games, they're siloed experiences too.
It's interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're very accessible. They're very accessible to any kind
They
of
are.
player.
I'll give them that.
Yeah. Like you.
It's funny that Kyle brought up another Nintendo game because Nintendo actually does do that, right? 1-2 Switch was like that. I think the Wii Sport, Wii Resort type games are low. No, those are more solid experiences as well. Wait, what am I saying? 1-2 Switch isn't like that. That's not like a board game where you can like be at the end and lose all your stuff.
No.
But it's in terms of the mini games. I guess that's what I was thinking. It's like a bunch of mini games.
WarioWare is one of their good mini game franchises.
WarioWare.
Right.
You know, there's like we never talk about Wii U games because I never had one, and I'm pretty sure you guys didn't either.
I didn't own one, but I played one a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot of Wii U games that some of our mutual friends play that are probably similar, but again, those are Nintendo games. So.
Mm-hmm. One of the multiplayer games that I feel like I wish they could bring it back because how a Switch works now. Maybe they can't. I don't know. But one really cool set of games that I really liked in the Wii U was their what was it? The Wii U, the Mario Plaza or whatever, where it had a set of mini games. It had Luigi's Mansion. It had a Mario game. So for example, the Luigi's Mansion one was you were a ghost, and you were trying
I know
to
what you're
hide
talking about.
from somebody with the
They have a gamepad.
They had the gamepad, so you could see, like you were hiding. Like if you're on the gamepad, you could see everything, but if you were playing on the main screen, you couldn't see the ghost. So it's like you were just trying. Like it was so fun, like that kind of asynchronous gameplay.
They had a lot of really good. Not asynchronous, asymmetrical.
Asymmetrical, thank you. It was super cool, and sadly, nobody can compete with Nintendo. So the Wii U kind of died because only Nintendo can make Nintendo.
I hate that those touchpad games were lost to the Wii U because there were a lot of them that had that potential and only offered those type of interactions. Because that game was super fun.
There's a Pac-Man game that came out on Switch that was from the Wii U that uses asymmetrical gameplay.
How?
I feel like you could do it if you did a Switch, like 2 switches, and it was a multiplayer, like not LAN, but on the same Wi-Fi or something.
Yeah, that's what they do. They use, I think it's 3 or 4 switches, and one person is different from the rest.
Well, I was saying not even that many. I think you just need 2 switches. One switch for the gamepad, like the Wii U pad, and then one that just is everybody else.
Oh, you dock it?
Oh, I see what you mean.
So
sure, yeah.
Lot easier, simpler. But yeah, a lot of those games were super great multiplayer games, but they're gonna be lost to time because
the Smash Bros on the Wii U wasn't that bad either.
Oh yeah, what's it called?
Smash 4.
Yeah, Smash Brothers.
It was called Smash Bros for Wii U. And Smash Bros for 3DS, I think.
Yeah, you're right. The 3DS one I did not enjoy that one.
Wii U was fun.
Were they not basically the same?
They were, but just playing on the 3DS was it.
Yeah, miserable.
Yeah, I'm not gonna get into it, but it wasn't fun.
Weren't there some game modes that were only on the 3DS version?
I think it was like that for both of them. Yeah, they both had specific stuff. But there was like a map mode where, you'd go around and pick up power-ups before a match.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. In the 3DS version.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which was
interesting.
It was weird. I only played it a handful of times. I didn't really understand why they did it. It didn't seem to add a whole lot. But I guess when you're going to get the power-ups, it played similarly to Subspace Emissary.
Yeah, so somebody would have like extra punching power and somebody had extra speed.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like a weird turn. I can't remember. But I think that's one of those situations where they're trying to justify having 2 versions of the same game. So they're trying to add something separate.
Gotta have different content in there somewhere.
Yeah, different SKUs.
That feels, that's not very Nintendo of you guys.
I mean,
forcing gameplay features.
I feel like the Wii U is the most
forced console.
un-Nintendo experience I've ever had. Like, it felt so unwelcoming. It felt so half-baked. It just didn't feel like the Nintendo I knew.
The gamepad should have just been a peripheral for the Wii.
A lot of people thought it was.
Yeah, I think most people did. I mean, it's called the Wii U.
But didn't the Wii U have better processing? Wasn't that the first HD game system from Nintendo?
I think you're right about that.
I don't know if it would have gone well on a Wii.
Yeah, I mean, sure.
I mean, the games would have been the same.
I think they should have just named it something completely different. And
for sure.
Oh, yeah.
That was a bad call.
Terrible marketing.
Just leverage it differently because it just had no hope. No hope.
You can't have all these Wii commercials. We would like to play,
mm-hmm.
and then have the thing called Wii U with no gimmicky commercials.
Nope.
And
like we
expect people to understand. Go buy a new one.
You gonna like it.
You go to the store now.
You gonna buy. So I want to ask y'all a question. Because I was thinking about Nintendo, right? And when it was like, hey, nobody's competing with them in certain spaces, I wonder if one other thing that makes Nintendo game, of course, great game design, great gameplay, Nintendo effect, right? But I also wonder if like their iconic game characters really help to make their games feel that much better. And I mean, I would say that because I was like thinking to myself, even if somebody like cloned Mario Party 1-for-1, and then it was just like random people, I don't know if I would care as much. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's something fun about Waluigi styling on you.
Yeah.
After winning some random game of luck, and he's like, aha, yeah, and you're like, come on, get that out of my face, bro. Get that. You know what I'm saying?
I think there's something to that because I mean, new IPs, right? Splatoon and ARMS. Can you name 3 ARMS characters?
Are there 3 ARMS characters?
Yeah, there's like a dozen.
There's a mummy guy.
I know Min June or whatever because she's in Smash.
Oh, Linden?
Min. Not Min June. Min. Yeah.
This man said Min June. You've been watching too many movies.
I mean, that's it. I mean, honestly, I don't know.
There's a woman with gray hair. Spring Girl, isn't that one of them?
Is there a Spring Girl? I thought it was Spring Man. And maybe something else for the female counterpart.
Spring Man, Spring Girl. Fair enough. Well, let me ask you this:
Woman.
Does Splatoon have characters with names?
Yes.
So that's the other thing I was going to say is the main character, the player character, is unnamed because it's you, I guess.
Yeah.
There are other characters, and a lot of the NPCs are named and are like recurring characters.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, but none of them are, I would say, particularly memorable. The only 2 that I can ever think
like
of,
play on words.
Yeah, they're all just goofies. They're just
Callie and Mari.
NPCs. Yeah. So yeah, I was going to say the only memorable ones are the ones that do the newscast. So in the first game, it was Callie and Mari, right? And then the second game, it's Pearl and... Finish my thought, Kyle.
I'm trying to remember. I can't.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
In this new one, they're called Shiver and Fry. And so they introduce different characters and then there's Ray. I think he's a stingray. So there's actually 3 in this game, not just 2.
Ray.
So I'm always going to play. Speaking of Splatoon 3, they're doing basically a free Splatfest demo this weekend.
This weekend?
I think so. The 27th. Yeah, this Saturday. They're going to do a Splatfest. So you sign up for a team. You pick which of the 3 teams you want to be on. And this for the 0th Splatfest, it is the teams are rock, paper, or scissors. I'm probably going to be scissors because that's what the Stingray's doing, and to me that's hilarious because he doesn't have fingers.
I I apologize to our listeners because when this airs, that's going to be past.
Oh, snap. You're right. Well, yeah, there's I was Scissors. We won. Good job, Team Scissors.
So something
Dominated.
interesting about Splatoon, and I actually have like the Wikipedia page up for Mario Golf, right? And I was like thinking about it. I was like, why is like Splatoon characters so not memorable to me? It's because it does have a very distinct style, and all characters have to fall within that style. They have to look like Splatoon people. They have to they can be variations, but they're all Splatoonish. But like, if you look at Mario characters, like,
oh yeah,
they're all distinct.
They're so distinct,
Yeah, the Inklings are very carbon copy.
Yeah, they're just one thing, right? It's kind of like Koopas, or Goombas.
Well, the Inklings are, but a lot of the side characters aren't Inklings.
Yeah, they're very
actually. I don't
distinct.
think. Other than the newscasters we were just talking about, none of them are Inklings. Now that I think about it, unless I'm misremembering.
Are they other like races like that?
Yeah. So one,
like
one is like they're different. They're different sea creatures. There's the stingray. There's pufferfish. There's like one of them isn't even a fish. The guy who like. One of them's a lobster. He gives you food. The guy who like cleans out your items so that you can get the little power ups, and then you can customize your items. You know what I'm talking about, Kyle?
Is that the little orange guy? No.
Yeah, I think he's like an anemone or something. Like he's not an animal. He's just spiky.
Oh, that explains it. Why he does the cleaning and stuff. Then, the role still makes sense. I didn't know that about him though.
So think about it though, like in like if you think of like Mario, right? Mario is the only Mario, right? Like even in like Luigi is the only Luigi, Peach is the only Peach, Yoshi's the only Yoshi, so on and so forth. And like Toad, right? Toad is literally like represents his whole race, right? Like Toad and Toadette, they're just toads. They don't have really names. And I think that's like an interesting thing about like having. Like, Nintendo has this ability to just create characters and just drop them into the world without thinking to themselves, oh, does this fit the motif of Mario? Like, sure, we'll give him a hat and a big nose, but, like, that's about it, And so all the characters feel very iconic and unique. But in Splatoon, it's just, green Splatoon, dude. Inkling.
No, I that's what I'm saying is that like, but none of the characters, other than like I said, the specialty newscasters, are Inklings. They're all totally different.
But all those characters are NPCs. Like
yes, and I think the actual difference is there are two differences. I think the first one is that your player character is an unnamed, unimportant person. You're the
protagonist.
You're just the protagonist, right? You don't have any identifying features other than you just being you. And a lot of games do that, and that's great. That's no problem. But it's very unlike Mario games where like you're playing as Mario or as Peach. You're not playing as like a me when you play Mario Galaxy. And I think the other difference is that you don't typically. Like, the only interactions you have with NPCs, really, are, like, game functions. Yeah, exactly. Transactional. You're in a shop, or you're buying. You're doing, basically all of them are shops, or they're proprietors for different areas of the game. So, like, when you're in the first part, when you're actually in the campaign, which there isn't much of a campaign to speak of, is the other reason. But when you're in the campaign, most of your interactions are over, like, the radio. Like, it's just you and all the enemies, and then people are talking to you, unnamed, unfaced.
Yeah, and I think
that's it.
I think just kind of, and not really harping on Splatoon per se, what I'm saying, kind of what I think is interesting is that Nintendo, where they've been the best, is where they don't try to hold too strongly to a motif, but they just try to make a character that stands out, and then they give that character a very distinct and unique character, right? because like Splatoon or even like what's the game again with men and all of them
Arms,
like Arms,
legs.
like they're all unique, but they all kind of feel like, okay, like who are you? What's your personality? Like you'd have to kind of play the game, right?
Well, it's a fighting game. You know how much.
But it's like, Mario characters, they all get their own game. They all get their own personalities. When you interact with them, you get a very different vibe from them. They're not even kind of necessarily the same size consistently. Like, it's like, they just are like, look, these characters are fun and you're going to love them. And that's all that matters to us. We don't care about consistency or, it's like,
I think you hit something pretty hard or really strong about, I guess, a strong character design. And really, it's benefited the Mario brand and the Mario characters to be in all these different scenarios because now we identify them by the consistencies that they have across them, which would be their outfits and their personalities and their scale in comparison to one another.
And the dynamics to each other.
Right, how they interact with each other and what their tendencies are on these different fields. Mario has never been the fast one. And so it's like, that stays consistent. Where it's like, okay, he's our go-to guy. He's the all-arounder. He's the hero of the story. And so I think, all these different outings have kind of really built that up while, I guess you can argue, that other characters don't really get that opportunity. Maybe the closest thing we've had so far is like Villager and Link being in the last Mario Kart, but otherwise,
Villager's also a self-insert, a non-character.
But they pretty much stay in their own games, and I mean they're consistent there, which helps. But I think what makes the Mario clan different is that they do branch out so heavily into other stuff. Mario Rabbids.
I think part of it is, like I was saying, is that these are characters that actually are characters. They're not, like, they act outside of player control in, like, cutscenes or between games. Like, they actually do things in the game.
Right.
And the consistency helps, obviously. If they only showed up in one game, who would care? But, like, there's a difference between a store clerk and a Luigi, even if you never play as Luigi.
I almost feel like it's almost impossible at this point, right? For another brand, let's say, to compete with Nintendo from a purely like multiplayer game standpoint. Because number one, Nintendo has great games, all this experience, but also like their characters really matter. And of course, Call of Duty is going to be great, or Fortnite or Apex, like those games are going to be like one off. But I feel like Nintendo has such a strong pool of candidates. And like you were saying, Kyle, the characters are consistent. Mario's always, that all arounder, Bowser's always the bruiser, like hits hard. And I'm like, what would it take for another, company, another brand to kind of create a universe of characters that could lend to a multiplayer universe, like, is that even possible? A multiverse, like.
Well, I think if it's going to happen, it's going to happen in fighting games. And that's where we've seen it, right? Like Marvel versus Capcom. You have all these, well, that's two separate ideas I'm kind of combining here. You have the multiverse kind of situation in Marvel versus Capcom. But what I meant was that, like, in fighting games like Soul Calibur, those are all very distinct characters that are defined not just by their different fighting styles, but although that is a great base and it helps a lot, but by the character design and by the personalities in like little cutscenes in the game and the voice lines and the moves themselves. Like I was trying to think of a counterpoint. I was like, what earlier I said, oh, it's a fighting game. And I didn't finish, but I was going to say, like, oh, it's a fighting game. Like, how much personality can they have? But then I immediately thought of Yoshimitsu. And I'm like, okay, that was a dumb comment to make. Like, and
then the Street Fighter characters are
super like all sorts of fighting games have great characters.
But here's the interesting thing. Like, Nintendo is unafraid to move those characters to different types of genres, right? Like Mario's in a
Yes.
fighting game, Mario's in a golfing game, Mario's in a basketball game. Where do we see Yoshimitsu in a
Doing
golf
anything
game?
else.
I want to see Yoshimitsu in like in a Resident Evil style horror game.
Like
Ooh.
think about how confident you have to be with your brand and your games.
Right.
That you're just like, I'm gonna drop Yoshi in whatever I want to drop him in, and it's gonna be fire. You know what I'm saying?
And I think
Yeah.
you mentioned this. I feel like IPs are starting to feel this way, sort of, with their partnership with Fortnite, because like Street Fighter characters are in Fortnite now. Like we see Ryu with a gun, and that's something we don't see in any Street Fighter games for sure.
Ryu with a gun.
Ryu's got a gun.
Yeah. But and it's funny because even when you bring those characters into their universe, they're basically just like they're exactly what they are, skins, right?
Yeah,
They're
skins.
not, you know, and of course you can add mechanics to make it cool, like they're doing the whole Dragon Ball thing, which is really kind of cool.
So
Wait, they did
surface level though.
They've done so much better with the Dragon Ball thing than I could have ever imagined, to be very honest.
Have they?
Yeah.
I mean, how much do you really have to do? Just get the power up sound effect correct, and everything's gonna be hyped.
Okay.
No matter what.
You ready, Kyle? We're gonna explain to him what they've done in short order. Okay.
To Bulma? Oh, in general.
Bulma. Look at her crackhead look herself. She looked like she was going
What's
mad.
Bulma doing?
She looks so bad in the game.
She's
Her skin
malnourished.
she looks so bad. Her skin is so bad, dog. It's so bad.
The characters
But-
look a little wonky.
But like
Learn a weird
Fortnite
engine.
has done better at adding mechanics from other like franchises than the franchises themselves. Like Spider-Man's swinging
Snap.
hands is like
Oh, yeah.
better. Is a better swinging experience than almost the actual Spider-Man game, right?
90% of Spider-Man games.
Dragon Ball, you get a Nimbus, which actually is like a fundamentally quality mechanic. Like it allows you to move really quickly, get up in the sky, float down, drop without getting hurt, and you get a Kamehameha. And the Kamehameha,
I've seen that, yeah.
you know, it shoots, but they've balanced it so well, it can kill you, of course, if you hit with it, but it also makes you a sitting duck. You know what I'm saying? Like,
You got to charge it up, and you can't move while it charges. And when you go to initiate it, you can't be on the ground. You will be airborne.
so it makes you
What do you mean you will? Like it'll pop you up off the ground?
Yeah.
you said?
Yeah, it pops you up a few feet.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah.
yeah, so it kind of balances because you could use it, and it happened to me. I've been shot by somebody down the road, you know, because they saw me, and you're loud. You're like, ah, man, you know, and you just see it, you know. They've done they've added these mechanics that are really fun. But once again,
they
it's
feel
still
authentic.
Fortnite. They feel authentic, and to me,
Couldn't Darth Vader like throw a saber with the Force and pull it back?
Yeah.
yeah, his lightsaber.
And then if you take his saber, you can do it too, and it feels really good.
Yeah, and just I'm just saying, like, honestly, all I expected was skins for Dragon Ball, right? Yeah, the power up, yeah, Goku, yeah, Vegeta, whatever. But like, they actually added mechanics, which is kind of crazy, and they're good.
Yeah, I appreciate
They're
that.
actually
Because
fun.
that's what they've done before. Up to most recently, I think. Yeah, most of them just were skins. Like I don't think like Captain America has any specific movement.
John
in the
Wick
game.
was actually rolling around with a pencil stabbing people.
Exactly.
riding around in his Shelby or Mustang or whatever he drives, like.
Little dog follows him, and if you kill the dog by
he
accident,
goes-
you just immediately die.
Oh,
He goes rage mode, and he just
Gets an extra bar of health.
So it's like, please don't shoot the dog. Please don't shoot the dog. Yeah. So, but I mean, like,
Naruto had an emote or something.
yeah.
Gotta love those emotes.
Oh, the Naruto implementation was so bad. Let's be honest.
It
But-
was rough. They're learning.
They're learning, you know. But that being said, like, honestly, Fortnite's the only people I've seen do something where they're taking all these different disparate characters and doing something fun with them. But it's still Fortnite, right? It's still a shooter.
Right.
You know, but like it'd be so interesting to see because Fortnite's not really it's not like a Nintendo, you know, like it's Epic. Like you couldn't see Fortnite cart, you know what I'm saying? Like that's not
Right.
gonna work, you know. It's still Nintendo has like I don't want to say a monopoly, but they kind of hold it down for having a mix of multiplayer experiences within one,
IP.
Yeah.
Set of IPs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's why they're the best, man. That's why they're the best. So I guess we should wrap it up here. I mean, do y'all have any last thoughts on Nintendo? You know what? This is what I want to do. And I know Steve's not going to like this.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
I want you to name your favorite Nintendo multiplayer game. If you had to make a choice, if somebody said, "Hey, this is the Nintendo game, like the best one, multiplayer game," what would it be? So
my favorite or the best?
Yes.
Yes.
Your favorite best.
Your favorite best. So just only one. So
I have one. Can I go first?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, if you're gonna come out
he
like
said,
that,
I have one, but can I go last?
I don't want to go anymore. I changed.
You're going now. Go.
All right. And if you guys don't say it, I have an honorable mention afterwards. But I'm just going to say my favorite one now, and that is Diddy Kong Racing on Nintendo 64.
How you finna take that?
Got it.
But it's a rare game, so that's, I think, an honorable mention. But I'll count it. Go ahead, continue. Go ahead, Diddy Kong Racing.
Yeah, so a lot of really good memories, and I think it's one of those games that really showed, how you can take the kart racing formula and spin it. And I think it inspired, Crash Team Racing, which I hear is really good. Whatever the Sonic racing game is, which it's still weird to me to see him driving a car when he runs faster than everything else. But, they got to do what they got to do. And like I said earlier, the best racing game of all time, Garfield Kart. So I'm appreciative of Diddy Kong Racing for just being the trendsetter in that way. Plus, it's a super solid game. You can drive like a hovercraft. You could drive a plane. And they were like boss fights, but they were boss races. And super cheap. The bosses were cheap. But still a whole lot of fun. And for the Nintendo 64, it's smooth as butter. Games back then didn't really crash or anything. And I could gush about that game all day. But that's all I'm going to say. Diddy Kong Racing.
Well, I wasn't going to call Diddy Kong Racing. I actually meant to mention it much earlier. But I think Diddy Kong Racing is one of my favorite multiplayer games of all time for sure. Same. I think it's the only game that I can definitively say that I've 100%ed.
Oh, wow.
That I've done everything that you could possibly do in the game.
There's a lot.
I've beat the game. I beat the game, got all the coins. You right? Like all the coins across the level, which means that it's like a circuit, right? Like 4 matches. You have to get all the coins in the races and get first. But you have to understand these coins are in the most randomest, out of disrespectful places, like in the water, off the course. You know what I'm saying? And you still have to win on every race back to back. So I did that. Then I played reverse version of the game. Because once you do all that, it unlocks the reverse.
Mirror mode.
Beat reverse, which is much harder. All the AI is better. Matter of fact, the main pig?
Oh, I remember.
What's his name?
Dragon Demon Pig.
I know nothing about a pig.
I was talking to Kyle. I wasn't talking to you.
I'm pretty sure his name is Ganon.
I know his name is Ganon. I think his name was Pigula. I don't know. But
he did it. He was dressed like Dracula. I
can't remember his name. But all the boss races, you had to do them perfectly. You could make 0 mistakes. I mean, your tire couldn't touch the grass.
You were done.
And you were done. So I beat all the reverse, and then you had to do the reverse with the coins, dog. That is probably the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Every track, every race, every Grand Prix, or every race, you had to do it for every lap or whatever. 100% of the game. 100. That's my my lifetime achievement. Yeah. So anyway,
have you guys played the new tracks for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe?
I played the first set. Is there a second set?
Are they free? Are they free?
They are not free.
They're not free. They're free if you have the online service.
So you're paying for them by
They're not
premium.
Yeah, but you can also. I mean, I would have just bought them outright.
what I
No,
did.
there is a second set. It's pretty good, Kyle. You should check it out.
When did they come out? I didn't know that.
Like a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, I think.
Yeah,
Pretty recently.
Maybe longer.
I saw that they were announced. Yeah,
Oh,
pretty recently.
good
But
looking
anyway.
out.
Anyway,
I had to gush on Diddy Kong Racing. It's the same. Great. I accept that choice. Mine would have to be, and I've been going back and forth, but I think my number one favorite multiplayer game, Nintendo, would have to be Super Smash Bros. Melee. Without a
Ayo.
doubt, probably the game that I've spent the most time in of any game. I played it. Probably the reason my GPA at Georgia Tech was so low. No, I was just a bad student. It wouldn't even matter.
Both.
yeah.
Both. Yes. Played it with my friends. My favorite thing was somebody would be like, "Oh, you guys play Smash Brothers? Oh, I'll come by and play with you." And then we destroy their spirit and they'd never play with us again.
Never see them again.
That was your favorite thing?
Yeah, it was my favorite thing because everybody likes to talk trash when it comes to Smash
Yeah.
Brothers. Oh, I'm so good. I beat all my friends. And I'm like, okay, cool. Let's play together. Yeah, you ain't even ready. You ain't even ready. And I'm like, oh, cool.
Ooh.
You know,
Then
and
you
just
have to
crushing
do
that.
it to them. You just
You
have
have
to.
to crush them. The first match, no warm up. They get the full hands. 4-stock them boys. Like, and they're like,
And
whoa.
you let them get a couple hits in so that they feel like they're doing something, and
Nope.
then you say no.
No, I said no. I dodged their
damage.
first. I dodged their first spot. Dodged their first attack. Grabbed them, slammed them on the ground, and it's over. You know,
Like, oh, this different.
10-second 4-stop.
Doing tournaments, planning tournaments, training to play in tournaments. Almost getting first in a duos tournament against the
Oh.
best guy at Georgia Tech was probably one of the hypest experiences. It was crazy. And I remember him looking at me differently from that day. He's like,
Hey.
I now see you, child.
You earned some respect.
Because I had to like hold him off. Like I had to actually fight him. Like it was, and we were over just going hard, and he would mop everybody. So it was great. It was a great experience. It was. Ooh, I wish that was recorded. It was so fun. So anyway, definitely Smash Bros. Melee. Honorable mention: Mario Kart 64.
Ayo.
Well, mine's easy. I gotta go with Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
Hey, that's good.
Yeah, I mean, I love Smash, and to me, Ultimate is just the best Smash.
Ultimate Smash. Some would say.
I honestly, since I got a Switch, I was looking forward to Smash coming out eventually. I already mentioned I missed the Wii U, so I missed Smash 4, and when I moved to Louisiana, I joined a group of friends who all were playing Smash Bros. At like the bring your own Switch parties we would go to. And they were all really good, and I didn't have a Wii U, so I sucked. I sucked real hard because I was still playing like I was playing Brawl.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Well, actually, I played Project M, so I was playing as if I was playing Project M.
Melee-ish.
But I swore to myself, I'm like, look, when the Switch game comes out, I'm going to buy that junk, and I'm going to get good.
Gonna be the best.
And I got pretty good. So I've really enjoyed it. I've spent probably 300 or 400 hours in it, which isn't a lot compared to some people, but for me, that's a lot. It was the primary bond with some of my good friends back in Louisiana.
Yes.
Yeah, so it was a good time. And now I'm sad because nobody here in Atlanta plays.
You have to be the pioneer.
Well, the issue with being the pioneer is no one wants to play against me because
There's somebody out there.
they just get clapped.
There's
You
somebody
have to
out
teach them.
I have to teach them, yeah. There's a guy at work who just started with me and he played, he says. And he's like, yeah, I'll learn. I'll get good again. I'm like, all right, bet. So I might get a little work league going.
Hold them to it.
But that would involve like actually being around people. So we'll see who actually comes up.
Message him daily. Are you good
Message
yet?
him daily.
Can I call?
But yeah, I mean, the game is incredible. The amount of detail, like Brad was talking about, they don't have the trophies, the galleries, but they do have spirits, which are almost as good in terms of gallery.
Disagree.
The first player is trash. We all hate World of Light. That's fine. They had an idea. It wasn't good. Wasn't well implemented. But
did they
the
double
gameplay
down?
itself is fantastic. Sakurai put out a screenshot every single day for over 2 years, which isn't a gameplay mechanic, but just exemplifies the love and detail and like insane dedication that goes into that game. They have almost 90 characters. Is it 90 characters? Around 90 characters, which is absurd.
Absolutely insane. Absolutely insane.
It's actually somehow manages to still be fairly okay balanced for all that.
Mm-hmm.
Did
So
Smash
yeah,
Bros.
I think it's just
Did Smash Bros. Pioneer photo mode in games?
No.
oh.
I don't think so. I'm pretty sure
Does
that
Smash Bros. Even have a photo mode?
Yeah, the pause menu has always been like a photo mode. Whenever you
not
pause
in,
Yes.
mid-game.
not in the originals, but like later. Like,
At least-
Oh yeah,
Melee,
they did add
at least.
the 3D look around. In
Melee, you couldn't take a picture, but you could look around.
Yeah, and of course the GameCube doesn't have a screenshot function. But yes, they did have that. That's pretty cool. There was just a lot of cool stuff. I definitely in Melee remember like pausing in the middle of the move and like looking at the animated faces and
Mhm.
like the particle effects and just being like, "Wow, look, I made Luigi cry," you know.
Look, Mom.
Look, Mom, I'm so,
So yeah,
good.
that's it. That's it for me.
Very
And
nice.
I gave an honorable mention. Either y'all have an honorable mention, just the name of the game. You don't have to explain it.
Yeah, honorable mention, and maybe it counts as a single-player turn multiplayer, but Pokemon Stadium on Nintendo 64.
Yo, let's go, Pokemon Stadium.
Yes,
Wow.
sir.
The trainer, the trainer.
Oh,
What the Adonis? He uses that all the time.
He was
The
like, make a
trainer-
decision or something. I can't remember.
The trainer has not made a decision.
What's the matter, trainer?
I think Splatoon 2 would be my my honorable mention.
Very good.
I mean, obviously there's Mario Kart, but I don't know, Mario Kart just feels like Splatoon is just cooler to me.
Ooh,
Mario Kart's like almost too easy to nominate. It's like,
Yeah, exactly.
how dare you? I nominated Mario Kart.
well, the newest one. Did you you nominated
newest
an old
one.
one, didn't you?
Yeah, I know.
You did.
Mario Kart 64. Yeah.
Oh, we didn't even talk about Double Dash. Oh man.
Well, I was just literally about to say, I would say the sleeper hit of all of the multiplayer games that were secretly really good, but like just never seemed to. I don't know. It just maybe it was the GameCube or something. Double Dash. It introduced so many new mechanics to the Mario Kart series, and I mean, I wish
Changed
they'd
it
bring back.
forever.
I wish they'd bring back the ability to flip to change your driver,
Oh
so you
man.
can switch your weapon. Because
It
I
was
always
so
loved
good.
that. I loved
And the specialized weapons.
Mm-hmm. It was great. It was great. Played that so much. So, the answer to the question, what makes Nintendo multiplayer games so great, is Nintendo.
It's
Nintendo and
itself.
you.
And you. We.
What makes I was gonna make this joke and I forgot until just now. I was gonna say that maybe the real Nintendo game is the friends we made along the way.
Oh.
Because really playing with people is, you know,
The
it depends on who
Nintendo-
you're playing with.
And
Yeah.
until you lose them in Mario Party. So, I don't know.
Sure.
I feel like, first of all, I need to play Mario Party. I haven't played in so long.
They got it online now.
Like
You
I
can
said
get
earlier.
angry
It's not
at
great.
people miles away.
Like I said earlier, we're gonna just not talk about multiplayer, Nintendo multiplayer online. Just talk about local. Keep it local.
Couch co-op.
But honestly, you know, Nintendo has definitely set the standard for multiplayer games. I honestly, if anybody out there disagrees with our take on Nintendo being probably the top of the food chain as far as multiplayer games, love to hear your opinion. Please share it in the Discord, share it in the comments on the YouTube video, catch us on Facebook, drop it on, you know, this post when we publish this. We would love to hear your comments.
And then delete it.
Then delete it. But,
because
you know,
you're wrong.
you know, we'll screenshot it before you have a chance. And if you agree with our opinion, we'd love to hear about your favorite Nintendo multiplayer game and how it, you know, how it impacted you and why you loved it so much. Love to hear it once again on our Facebook, on YouTube, or in Discord. So,
Catch me at church, you know.
or yeah, catch us in these streets. We around. Some of us
Have
some
a
of y'all know us.
GameCube controller on you.
Yes, and if you do want these hands, if if you think that you're the man in Smash, holla at me. Holla at me.
Oh, we got to get an arena going. Yeah.
Yeah, we do.
That multiplayer, though, do be rough.
It do be rough. So, anyway, hey, I want to thank the boys themselves. Thank you, my brother Kyle. Thank you for being here today.
Always a pleasure, sir.
And, of course, we have to thank our brother Steve. Thank you, Steve, for gracing us with your presence.
You're welcome this time.
This time.
Yes. And thank you
to
our... Oh, well, thank you.
Ooh.
Thank you. And, of course, thank you to Nintendo for making great games. And thank you to our Super Agile Nation, our Super Agile family. Thank you for loving us, watching, listening. And as always, you can watch us and listen to us on podcast.
Podcast.com.
You're right about that.
On Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, SoundCloud, and of course you can watch the video on YouTube. So share it with your boys, with your girls. We in these streets. We love y'all. Thank you for listening. And until next time, peace.